Hey everyone, welcome back. You know how we love to dig deep into thought-provoking ideas, and today is no exception.
Absolutely.
We're diving into this fascinating concept that embracing change can actually be the key to preserving what really matters to
It's
us.
pretty counterintuitive, right?
It is, and our jumping off point is a passage from the Bible, Matthew 9:16-17, and we're looking at it through the lens of Jeremiah Adegbola's interpretation on the Rhythms of Grace Center podcast. Have you heard of that one?
Oh, yeah, it's a great podcast. I've listened to a few episodes.
So Adegbola uses this really vivid analogy of new wine and old wineskins
Yeah.
to illustrate this whole idea.
I love that analogy. Like, you can't pour new wine, especially when it's still fermenting, into an old wineskin that's all stiff and dried out.
What happened?
Well, the wineskin will just burst, right? And you lose all that precious wine.
Ah, such a waste.
But if you use a new, flexible wineskin, the wine has room to breathe, to finish fermenting, and both the wine and the container are preserved.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going, but how does this apply to our lives?
Well, Adegbola suggests that we need to be like those new wineskins, flexible and open to change. In fact, he calls it God's new, this constant flow of growth and new beginnings that God has for us.
God's new. I like that.
Mm.
But what exactly does that look like in practice? What kind of changes are we talking about?
It's not necessarily about, like, chasing after the latest fads or always feeling like you have to be reinventing yourself.
Okay, so what is it about?
It's more about being sensitive to God's leading in your life, being willing to step outside your comfort zone. Even if that means letting go of things that you've always held dear, things that used to serve you well but might be holding you back now.
I can see how that would be tough, to let go of things that feel safe and familiar.
Hmm.
What are some examples of these old wineskins that we might be clinging to?
Oh, there are so many. It could be your physical environment. Maybe you've outgrown your current city,
Yeah,
or your home doesn't really fit your needs anymore.
that makes sense.
Or maybe it's an outdated mindset, like a belief system that you've held onto for years that isn't really serving you anymore.
I think we all have a few of those, probably.
No, I do. And, it could even be a relationship that's become, I don't know, stagnant or even unhealthy.
Oof. Yeah, that's a tough one. But I get it. It's like sometimes we outgrow people or situations, and it's okay to move on.
Exactly. It's about recognizing when something has run its course and being willing to release it.
You know, that reminds me of when I first started this podcast.
Yeah.
I was so attached to my old recording setup because it was what I knew, what I was comfortable with. But honestly, the sound quality wasn't great.
Sure.
It took me a while to realize that if I really wanted the show to grow, to reach more people, I needed to upgrade, to embrace the new, so to speak.
Yeah, you were clinging to that old wineskin.
I was. But eventually I realized it was time to let go and make space for something better. So Adegbola talks about this idea of losing value if we resist God's new. What does he mean by that?
He's talking about this idea that if we stay stuck in those old wineskins, we risk losing our vitality, our purpose. We become stagnant, like that old stale wine. He uses the example of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
When they disobeyed God, they were basically choosing to cling to their own desires.
Right. Instead of trusting God's plan.
Exactly. And what happened? They lost that paradise, that perfect harmony they had with God and with each other. They lost their value, you could say.
Wow, that is a powerful image.
Mhm.
It makes you think, what am I clinging to that might be preventing me from experiencing the fullness of God's plan for my life?
Exactly.
So how can we make sure we're not missing out? What are some practical steps we can take to embrace God's new and avoid those pitfalls?
I think it starts with self-reflection, honestly, like taking some time to really examine your life. Ask yourself, what am I holding on to that might be holding me back?
That's a good question.
And don't be afraid to get specific. Look at your relationships, your habits, your thought patterns.
And I guess if something feels like it's not serving you anymore, it might be time to let it go.
It might be. And remember, letting go can be scary, but it can also be incredibly liberating.
Yeah, I think that's a good word for it, liberating.
Mm-hmm.
So for our listener tuning in today, what's the biggest takeaway from all of this?
I'd say the key takeaway is this. Change can be a powerful force for preservation. It's when we're willing to let go of those old wineskins, to embrace God's new, that we really allow ourselves to grow and evolve and ultimately be preserved in the best possible way.
It's almost like we're making space for something even better, something that's more aligned with who we're becoming.
Exactly. And it's a journey,
Definitely. It's not a one-time thing. We're constantly growing and changing, and God is always there leading us into something new.
That's the beauty of it. It's a life of adventure and growth and transformation.
This has been such an incredible conversation, and I think it leaves us all with a really important question to ponder. What are your old wineskins? And are you ready to let them go to make room for all the incredible things God has in store for you?
That's a great question to think about. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Until next time, everyone, keep seeking, keep growing, and remember, change can be a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
See ya.
Bye.